This is the His and Her Money Show, where we talk about managing money, marriage, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Talaat and Tai McNeely.
Welcome back to another edition of the His and Her Money Show, brought to you by hisandhermoney.com. Hey guys, today is another great show dealing with not only debt, but with marriage. We have Dustin Riechmann from EngageMarriage.com, and he's going to share an incredible story of how him and his wife destroyed over $54,000 worth of debt
in just 3.5 years. And what I love also about this story, it helped make their marriage even stronger as well too.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and they have an incredible message to share. And I can't wait to talk to Dustin to kind of dig into this. So let's get into it. Let's get Dustin on the line. Hey, Dustin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm very excited to be here.
Hey, we're excited to have you because you have an amazing story of paying off a bunch of debt and helping people all across the country to be on the same level as you and your family are. But first, before we jump into your advice, can you give us a little background on yourself personally and professionally?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so my name is Dustin Riechmann, and I'm married to Bethany for about 14 years now, and we have 3 kids under the age of 10. And yeah, so I run a site called EngageMarriage.com, and that's my passion project, and that's where we reach a lot of couples around the world. By day, I am an engineer. So I do transportation engineering in a consulting firm. So yeah, Engaged Marriage, quick story on that. About 5 years ago, my wife and I were involved in our church doing marriage preparation and helping couples that were engaged to be married and doing a lot of live workshops and those sort of things. And we were on vacation and kind of reflecting on that and looking to maybe start a side business online based on some of the experiences that I'm sure we'll get into on our call with paying off debt. And decided that we need to get online, bring our kind of our message of being practical and being proactive online. So that's what Engaged Marriage is a play on words about, and that's what it's all about. So we've been writing there and reaching out through the internet for over 5 years now.
In your opinion, what's the number one mistake that married couples make in regards to handling their finances?
Yeah, I'd say the thing I see over and over, and this was a mindset that we were trapped in as well in our early years, is kind of that monthly payment mindset. If I can afford it this month, then I can afford it, or if I can go ahead and get it now, I'll be able to pay it off, for the next 5 years or whatever. And I think, in American society, that's every commercial. That's just kind of how we've been programmed to think about money. And our peers, our neighbors, our friends tend to always be in that mindset if you're around those types of neighbors and friends. And so, yeah, I think that's the big mistake, is just that real short-term mentality that we so easily fall into.
You said that was your mentality, and you kind of switched and had a mindset change, and you and your wife successfully paid off a bunch of debt. So what kind of debt was it? How much debt did you have at that time?
Sure. Yeah. I remember the number pretty specifically. It was $54,500. That was maybe 8 years ago now. So it's been a while for us when we started. And I guess it's a little bit longer than that even, because it was when we found out we were pregnant with our first child, we kind of had this aha moment or an expletive moment. We're like, wow, we've never really sat down and looked at what we've accumulated in those first 5 years of our marriage. And, we started looking at finances more closely with a child on the way and preparing, and started thinking about a house and all those things, and realized that we added it all up. It really was over $54,000. And so for us, we never really got into credit card debt. This was mostly car loans, student loans, and some short-term debt like furniture loans and things like that we had taken out.
You kind of touched on it briefly. You talked about how you had the mindset to where I have these payments, but I can afford the payment, so everything must be all right. And then you kind of realize that, that might not be the best philosophy to have. So for those people listening that may still have that philosophy, why is that mindset dangerous, and how can people change?
Yeah, I think it is dangerous, and it's one of those things that isn't going to come up and bite you today. But I think in a long-term sense, it's very dangerous. And I think because it breeds complacency, right? It's very easy to say, man, what's another $50 a month? What's another $100 a month? But when you get into that mindset and you look around and you see the people who live that way, they're very seldom, really making progress in their finances. And so for us, this idea to kind of have an ultimatum and say no more monthly payments, no more car payments, but we want to get away from that. And we want to instead have that monthly cash flow available to do better things in our lives. So whether that's funding experiences like trips and things with our kids, or saving, investing, and of course looking at some of the long-term strategies. But for us, it was trying to get out of the paycheck to paycheck thing, which is where monthly payments ultimately get you. So if you're sitting there today and you're like, I'm fine because my cash flow lets me, whatever I bring in, I'm able to pay back out, and we're not going any deeper into debt, well, you're pretty much in neutral. And unless you, at least for us and the way that our mindset worked, until we put our foot down and said, nope, we're going to not only get rid of this, but then we're not going to get back into that trap, because we want to, again, have that monthly cash flow. Because once you have that additional cash flow, it provides so much more freedom and contentment, and some of the other big benefits to marriage that I think we'll touch on a little later.
Now, how were you able to shift your mentality to begin the process of becoming debt-free?
Yeah, for us, the trigger point was being scared to death. We wanted to be pregnant, and so that wasn't really a surprise. But that realization that comes over whenever you have especially your first child, that was a real kind of cold water in the face moment for us, which was kind of funny because I'm a nerd by nature. My wife is not. So I always kind of knew what was going on with the finances, but I kind of just held it close to my vest. She didn't ask. I didn't think it was a problem because, again, all our friends were pretty much in the same situation. So I kind of had the head knowledge, and I had been a fan of Dave Ramsey's for a while, read a couple of his books, and actually Financial Peace was one of his books that was given to me right after we got married. So I kind of read it and said, that sounds good, but never really took it to heart. So it was really that the first child coming, we were also looking to upgrade and have a nicer home, and realizing that the cash flow just wasn't there because, again, we had all these payments. And we felt like we were making a pretty good living income-wise, but it was like it's all going back out. We don't really have any savings. We don't have any means here to think about long-term things like the next car or college or retirement or this house that we were looking at. So yeah, it was that. And once I shared with my wife kind of where we were at and explained kind of my bigger vision for where we wanted to be, in 10 or 20 years, she was totally on board. And then it just became a matter of, practically what are those steps? Like, what are we going to do to actually make this happen? But the mindset was pretty instantaneous. I think it kind of happened over one weekend that we had the realization, got fed up, and got determined to figure out how we could change things.
You mentioned steps. So let's talk about the steps. What were some of the steps that you guys took in order to accomplish demolishing this debt?
Yeah, I think the big first step for us was getting on a budget. We had sort of halfway had a budget before, where maybe the beginning of the year we would look at things and decide this is how we should spend our money. But we never did spend our money first on paper before the month began. We never had any accountability at the end of the month to see if we'd really stuck to it. So we got pretty strict on our budget, really sat down and started laying out where we looked back at, past transactions in our bank account, and we were able to see where we had spent a lot of money. And then we made a plan for that next month. And of course, we didn't hit all the categories just like we wanted, but we made adjustments. So each month we got better at the budgeting side. And through that budgeting process, we realized we just had enough income to really hit the payments that we were committed to. So we knew if we wanted to accelerate things, we either needed to drastically cut our spending or, drastically increase our income. And what we decided to do, there was just a couple things on the spending side that we focused on. A big one for us was eating out. That's always been kind of a source of entertainment for us. It's just something we love to do, but it was costing us a lot of money. So we did cut back on that, but we focused more on the income side. So I ended up working more on my engineering job and was able to find some overtime there. And I think more importantly, started looking at creative ways to make some side income and started getting plugged into some places online to, again, kind of be creative. And I can talk a little bit about some of the side businesses we've had over the years. The first one that this predates engaged marriage and everything. It ended up being a golf club reselling business. And it's kind of a funny one because I stumbled into it. I had been looking to try out some new golf clubs and I bought them off eBay and I got them. And I was like, I don't really care for these. So I was like, I'm going to resell them back on eBay. So I kind of got my money back, bought some more. So I started trying clubs. And I decided I'd look on Craigslist and look kind of locally, see what I could find around. We live in southern Illinois near St. Louis, Missouri. So I was looking on the St. Louis Craigslist. I started finding lots of golf clubs on there. What I realized was I could buy them a lot cheaper locally than people were selling them for on eBay in kind of a national market. And so I just started doing that. I would respond to Craigslist ads. I would actually post ads proactively looking to buy used golf clubs. Then I'd clean them up. I got really good at photos and eBay listings and figure out, the kind of the market price and how to handle shipping to be most efficient and all that kind of stuff. And ended up making, for a while there, I was making between $1,500 and $2,000 net profit each month. Just reselling golf clubs. It became pretty strenuous because I was dealing with, you're dealing with people going out and meeting people and buying the clubs and cleaning them up. And we kind of had our whole basement, full of golf club inventory, and my wife was helping me. But that was, I look back at that. I don't do that anymore because it was so time intensive. But those are massive amounts of cash to be able to throw on to that debt snowball and really accelerated our progress. So that was one of the big ones.
During this journey, as you're chipping away at the debt, were there some setbacks or some obstacles that you all had to overcome along the way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it seemed inevitable that, hey, look, we're going to have an extra $1,000 this month to pay off debt. This is going to be great. And then a dentist bill would happen, right? Or the tires on the car would need replaced, or an alternator would go out. Or, there's always something that seemed like, man, if things would just go to plan, we'd be in much better shape. But we took those in stride. I think at first we had some struggles in our marriage. Again, we were on the same page, but it's really easy to get defensive, So my wife's the natural spender. I'm the natural, more frugal one. So sometimes I was guilty of kind of using the budget as a negative thing, where it's like, what did you went out to lunch? Like, you didn't consult with me, or, she thought we should, be able to splurge a little bit, and I was being a real tight one. Sometimes that created some friction between us. But yeah, I mean, I think those are pretty typical setbacks. Now that we work with other couples, that's the kind of things I kind of warn people to be aware of and guard against. Have a lot of grace with each other. The first couple months, you're really going to have to communicate because this is all new to both of you, and it's easy to hurt each other's feelings, even though all you're trying to do is kind of meet that goal faster that you both set together.
Now, were there any lifestyle adjustments that you both had to make in order to become debt-free?
Yeah, I think the eating out was the big thing, which meant that we cooked a lot more at home, which ended up being a good thing for us. Over the biggest lifestyle change was our son came. It took us about 3.5 years to pay off that $54,000. And again, we started that process right before he was born. So we were changing our lifestyle a little bit for the budget, but as you guys can probably appreciate, the baby came, that changed everything. So it kind of all became one big whirlwind. In hindsight, I couldn't tell you which stress came from money, which stress came from being a new parent. But yeah, so there's a lot of lifestyle changes that came with him. But no, I think overall, yeah, the big lifestyle changes were on the income side. We just became really creative, I think, and started looking at the world in a different way. We started really learning how to be entrepreneurs and looking for opportunities to build little businesses or, do some services and things like that to earn the extra income to really plow through this debt as fast as possible.
So your journey was full of ups and downs, but you crossed the finish line. You did it. You and your wife paid it all off.
3.5 years.
3.5 years later, $54,000 destroyed. What type of impact on your marriage did that whole journey have on you guys?
I think I kind of look at it in two phases. So during the time that we were paying it off, it was, oh boy, it really made us communicate well. So we were forced to communicate in ways we hadn't before. And that really, it kind of started with the budget, and it started with mutual decision making. But that's carried over in all parts of our marriage. I mean, from parenting to really our intimacy and our sex life. I mean, that ability to communicate and be open with each other and honest about how we were feeling about some of these decisions, that was a massive benefit to our marriage. And, and I think then we became, more content in the process too, where it's kind of ironic by focusing so much on getting rid of this debt and looking at the shackles that it put on us, we've become more and more appreciative of the things we do have, more giving, more charitable. And so that's been really good. And that was kind of part of that, what happened in the process. And then I would say once we paid it off, we kind of took this big sigh of relief. Look what we did. There was definitely like a residual effect of, look what we can accomplish. Like, who would have thought in 3.5 years we would have done this? And look at our, with our peer groups, our friends, they don't even think this way. So, and now we know how to make extra income, and now we know how to do this and that. And that was about the time that, we got the idea with engaged marriage. And so really the seed was this whole debt freedom journey, but it's really grown into much more. And for us, it's grown into a ministry and a business around helping other married couples. It kind of, for us, started with the finances. And now, because of all we learned through that and the passion that gave us for being proactive and being practical and being on the same page and looking to set goals and achieve big things, that's the message we are now able to bring online, through our website and through all the things we do there.
What would you say are the benefits of having a debt-free marriage, and why should couples work hard to have one?
Yeah, I think, again, there's everyone, when you think about the benefits of a debt-free marriage, I think most people think, well, that'd be great because they'll have more money. And that's true, right? That's an awesome benefit. But I think there's the intangible things that you don't think about, like what will it take to actually accomplish that kind of goal, and the skills that you're going to develop, the communication patterns you're going to develop, that sense of kind of courage and, that we can take on the world together. That kind of transcends money, and it will really enrich your whole marriage. We've also developed a lot of trust in each other, a lot of faith in each other, because, again, we were able to change our lifestyle kind of in deference to one another because we wanted so much for each other in our marriage. And that was the attitude that we took into it. So I think what we did and what I think most people do, and it's totally fine, the initial reason you're going to want to do it is because you want to have that freedom with your finances, that cash flow each month to be able to do what you want to do. I think if you do it the right way with the right spirit, you're going to also get a lot of benefits directly to your marriage that you probably won't anticipate.
What if somebody's listening right now to this show and, they think your story is nice and that's good for you, but maybe not so much for them. They don't think that it's possible for their situation. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think that's the common reaction. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. I'll always have a car payment, or I can't do any better than what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I would just encourage them, for one, to realize that that's kind of a defeatist attitude, and I would ask them to educate themselves. Read some good books, listen to these kind of podcasts, hear other people's stories, and realize that there's a lot of people that are much worse off than they are, who probably don't have the resources and the skills and things that they have at their disposal. And people don't let those obstacles stand in their way. So, I think it's all about baby steps. So even if you don't feel like it's realistic that you could really pay off all your debt, or that you could live without certain payments in your life, but you can definitely still form a budget. You can definitely still look at places in your lifestyle that you're maybe spending a lot of money that doesn't bring you a lot of joy. And you can definitely look at ways to ascend up the income ladder, whether it's staying in your career, doing, again, some online side businesses or offline little side businesses to earn that extra income. So I would just encourage people to take a small step, start with the budget, really take a good hard look at where you're at, because you may be way worse off than you think, or you may be actually not be as bad off as you think. And you may be kind of setting yourself up with this barrier in front of you that's really artificial that you're putting on yourself, and if you need some help, seek out the resources. There's so much great resources online nowadays, even more than when we started, 8 to 10 years ago. There's really no excuse to not have the knowledge to do it. And having the willpower and the belief in yourself will come after you take the first small step and start seeing some success.
Great advice. Dustin, can you please tell our audience more about your site, engagemarriage.com, and please mention any resources or services that you would like our audience to know about?
Sure. Yeah. So engagemarriage.com is our home base, and we cover kind of everything that touches marriage, but we kind of focus on 4 pillars. Money is one of those. Sex and intimacy is one. Communication and romance, kind of keeping that spark alive. And so where we kind of thrive and where we focus our energies is couples kind of that 5 to 15 years of marriage, where, at least in our experience, and now we've heard from thousands and worked with thousands of couples, so many people struggle in that period because it's the time when you're maybe doing graduate school, starting new careers, having children, realizing you're in debt, buying your first house. There's so much change that goes on there, and it can all be very positive if you're educated and you're taking the right steps. But if you find yourself feeling trapped in it and feeling reactive instead of proactive, that's what we like to protect against by educating people. And again, I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm very much into practical advice. So that's what we're all about. And we like to say that if you feel like you're too busy to invest it all in your marriage, or you're too busy to worry about being proactive, then you need our site the most. And we really design everything for busy couples. So everything's very quick. Our one of our books, the main book is called 15-Minute Marriage Makeover. And that is literally all exercises that you guys can do in 15 minutes or less in those 4 pillar areas. It's set up kind of like a 28-day challenge where each week you're hitting on communication, romance, sex, or money. So, if you're listening to this show and you have some money interest, for a couple bucks on Kindle, that's a great place to start. I mean, for 1 week, 15 minutes a day, I guarantee you'll make a dramatic difference. And the whole budgeting approach and everything is included in that in little bite-sized chunks. So that's what we do. I'd encourage people to come over to the site. We have a section on money. So if you come in and click on money, it's a lot of resources. I've got a series there called Married Money Management, which is very much a step-by-step, like do this first, then do this, all based on our experience and working with a lot of couples out there. The final thing I would mention, just because I mentioned it so much throughout the podcast, is the whole side income thing. That's been a big thing for us. And I was really happy I got to do a workshop not very long ago with Dan Miller. I don't know if you guys know Dan. Absolutely. Big podcaster, great career guy, very creative guy. And it was actually his book, No More Mondays, that I was reading that inspired me to start Engaged Marriage, because he had been talking about, you may be a left-brain person, but you also have a creative side. And what if you use that outlet to serve people and you can make it a business? And that's what Engaged Marriage became. But anyway, I was fortunate to have Dan join me for a workshop, and we had all kinds of great ideas, and he included his book in the workshop, a book called 48 Low and No Cost Business Ideas. But this workshop is all about how to get started making a side income. So if people are interested in that, that's at engagedmarriage.com/side-income, and that'll take you right there. You can check that out. I think with what we've talked about on the show, if people are interested in all the creative ways that we make extra money, that's a good place to start.
And we'll be sure to include all those links in the show notes for all you guys to go and check out.
Great, yeah.
Dustin, you have successfully eliminated over $54,000 of debt in just 3.5 years. You, sir, are a certified debt destroyer.
I love
Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Talaat. Thanks, Ty. I really appreciated the time, and it was great to be on your show.
There you have it, folks. Another successful debt elimination journey.
What he said makes so much sense, because a lot of people, base the seriousness of their situation off of if they can afford the payments.
I remember that. I remember like when you go and you look for a car,
right?
You look for what? Can I afford the monthly payment?
Right.
Not how much is the car overall,
right?
But on a monthly basis, can I afford it? And you judge whether or not it's a good buy based on that fact.
And did you notice also, too, what he said was, he looked around at his circle of friends and family, and everybody was pretty much doing the same thing. So you don't think that you're the oddball. You're not odd because everybody else is doing the same exact thing.
Being in debt is the American way, I guess. But let's change that. Let's change the culture, starting with our own homes. Yep. We don't have to have a car payment. Right. We don't have to have a student loan payment, a credit card payment. You don't have to. Matter of fact, you shouldn't have it at all, because he talked about how being debt-free is just that. It's freeing. You have contentment in your life now. Not just more money. You have more contentment in your life now. Don't you want that? Don't you just want to feel the weight and the burden of being in debt lifted off of your back once and for all?
Oh, yes.
You got to pay the price.
Right.
You got to pay the price. You heard him. They had to cut back. They had to increase their income. He started side hustling. Why? Because he wanted to be free. He didn't want to be in debt no more. Are you like that? I mean, do you want to be debt free once and for all?
And you know what? He also said, too, he said some powerful things. He and his wife, they were bringing in between $1,500 to $2,000 a month just by selling used golf clubs that he would buy off of Craigslist. And did you notice what he said? He said it was a lot of work. Mm-hmm. But he did it in order to better his family's situation. Now he doesn't have to do it anymore. You hear him? He said now he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to do it now. But when you're in that situation, you have a lot of debt. Sometimes you're going to have to do some things that it doesn't feel good.
Let me tell you something.
It's not easy.
You're not going to get out of debt unless you're willing to hustle, unless you're willing to put in the work, unless you're willing to go hard. Hey, nothing's going to change. You got to put in the work.
That's so true.
Well, that does it for this episode of the His and Her Money Show.
Don't forget to visit us over at our website at hisandhermoney.com.
Hey, check us out on YouTube. We got a YouTube channel that you need to be subscribed to. We put out great content over there that you won't hear on the podcast. So get over to YouTube, search His and Her Money, and you will find us. Hit the subscribe button and tune in. Here it is. No matter where you are on the road to financial freedom, the key is to start now
and finish strong.
Thanks for tuning in to the His and Her Money Show. For more information on how to win with your finances, be sure to visit www.hisandhermoney.com.